This is the Berman Method podcast featuring Dr. Jake Berman and physician assistant Jenni Berman. We are here to treat problems and not symptoms. Disclaimer, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and not to treat anyone or to give medical advice. If you are interested in any information that we are giving and would like to use this for yourself, we recommend that you contact your primary care physician or reach out to us and ask us questions about yourself specifically. Enjoy.
And we're back. The Berman Method podcast. Dr. Jake Berman here.
With your lovely wife, Jenni Berman, physician assistant. Jeez, I didn't get that today.
Yeah, after last week, I wanted to make you say something different there.
But I didn't say it different. I just said what you say because you didn't say it.
Oh, man. Well, we're glad to be back. I'm hoping everybody is having a great week so far. And we're going to run along with the same concept that we were talking about last week, not necessarily diabetes or insulin resistance, but the overall concept, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. Today, we're going to focus more on the physical aspect of it, and I'm going to give you guys my 3 keys to living the highest quality life you possibly can physically.
Physically.
Yep.
Okay.
Especially when we get into the later years in life.
Okay.
So this is going to be a similar concept to adding life to your years, not years to your life.
Adding life to your years, not years to your life. Adding quality.
Adding quality.
Got it.
So who cares if you live to be 110 if you were recliner bound at the age of 90? So you essentially spent the last 20 years of your life in a recliner. What kind of quality of life is that?
Right. Yeah. No.
Sucks, right?
Yeah. Don't
Versus what if you passed at 90, but the day before you passed, you were running around chasing your great-grandchildren, throwing the football, doing fun things out and about, not worried about falling. Oh, man, that's a big one.
Right. So falling is one of the top causes of mortality at that age, right?
I think so.
Past 90? Past 80? Even?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, so when you fall, break a hip, it's not likely to recover from that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's actually how I lost my grandfather. He was starting to get demented, and he slipped and fell, broke his hip, went to the VA, and never came home.
Right.
Yep.
So it just really decreases, not only the quality of life, but once we have a hip fracture at that age, it really skyrockets the early mortality or the quick death after that.
Yeah, and
that's kind of morbid.
It is morbid, and I don't want to get into too much detail about it, but I do want to say one thing about it. The actual hip fracture itself is not what kills people. It's the accumulation of things. So why did they have a hip fracture to begin with? Usually, in general, people who have a hip fracture are older, frail, weak, immobile, right?
Right.
So you take somebody that's older, frail, weak, and immobile, and you break their hip, then they can't move for at least 8 weeks.
Right.
That exponentially increases this snowball of them getting even more frail, even more fragile, weak, immobile.
Right.
That's what ultimately leads to them passing.
The decrease of movement and the weakness that's associated post-fracture.
But anyways, I have a feeling that the vast majority of the people listening to our podcast are not even close to their 90s or potentially. So how do we make this relevant to the vast majority of our listeners?
Da-na-na. Drum roll. Tell us.
So we're going to go over my 3 keys to success essentially here. If you do these 3 things every single day, the chances of you ending up like the people that we were just talking about, frail, old, immobile, just weak, right? scared of falling, chances of you ending up like that are highly unlikely if you just do these 3 things every single day. These 3 things do not take time out of your day.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend an hour in the gym to utilize these 3 keys?
Absolutely not.
Wonderful.
These are very simple things that you can do, multitask, while you're already doing something else.
You can multitask?
Oh my gosh.
Berman?
Wow. I knew that one was going to come back and get me.
All right. I'm ready. Key number 1.
Number 1, stand on one leg for 60 seconds.
So while you brush your teeth at night.
And in the morning.
Yes, twice a day.
Yep. In general, people brush their teeth twice a day. In general, you brush your teeth for 2 minutes each time. So if you stand on one leg.
For half the time.
For a minute. And then stand on the other leg for the other minute.
Okay.
You're standing on one leg for 60 seconds at least once a day.
Right.
While you're already doing something else. So I'm not taking time out of your day to tell you to stand on one leg. Why is it important to be able to stand on one leg for 60 seconds?
Balance. Strength. So when we stand on one leg, what are the 2 things that we have to do to be able to balance on one leg?
Can you ask the question differently?
You should be asking me these things. But so core activation and glute activation, we have to activate both of those to be able to balance on one leg without falling. So when we're standing on one leg for 60 seconds, we are also multitasking by working those activations and brushing our teeth and balancing all at the same time.
So you're going way into the weeds on this thing. Let's keep this thing super superficial.
Oh, okay.
So standing on one leg, the most important thing that I think it does, you might get a different answer. You ask 10 PTs, you might get 10 different answers. But I think that the number one thing that it does is it helps stimulate your proprioception.
Okay.
So yes, what you said is very accurate. You're working on core stability, glute activation, foot and ankle mobility, stability. So you're working on all those things tactically, but more importantly, you're working on proprioception. Proprioception, so you have 3 major systems that make up balance in your body. I think I did a whole podcast on this one time. So go back to one of those earlier podcasts and look at the balance podcast if you didn't hear it already. So vision plays a major role into balance. Proprioception plays a major role into balance, and your inner ear. So that's when you have vestibular issues or vertigo. The inner ear is not performing accurately. As we get older meaning after the age of 16, essentially, it's when it starts happening. We start to rely more and more on the vision for our balance and less on the proprioception and inner ear for our balance. So when we stand on one leg, we're essentially stimulating the proprioception again and trying to wake it up, jumpstart it. And the reason why this is important is because when you're walking in low lighted conditions, you're essentially taking your vision out of the equation, which significantly decreases your balance if you don't have the other 2 systems present.
Got it. So when I'm balancing on my legs, balancing on one foot, brushing my teeth, can I hold on to something or should I not be holding on?
It depends on your starting point. So a lot of people that I work with, when I ask them to stand on one leg, they can't make it 3 seconds. It's like, whoa, and it's significant. Like you really lose your balance and it's almost like you're going over. So if it's like that, what you want to do is you want to start holding on. Hold on to the countertop with the other hand that doesn't have a toothbrush in it. Stand on one leg and then start to slowly decrease how much resistance you're putting through your hand on the countertop. What I don't want people to do is pick your hand up real quick and lose your balance and then put your hand back down to try to catch yourself. And, pick your hand up real quick until you lose your balance and you grab the countertop so that you don't fall over. that's not going to work out very well. But if you slowly start to decrease how much resistance you have through your hand, so you're just decreasing the pressure of your hand on the countertop, then your leg and the glutes and core and foot and ankle stability will start working more and more and more. And that's how you can ultimately take your hand off of the countertop.
Got it. So it's a slow transition to get the hand off, requiring the foot to work a little bit more, proprioception to work more. And then you get to where you close your eyes and stand on one foot.
Oh my gosh. Yes, this is all in levels, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends on your starting point. For the purposes of this podcast, we're just going to keep it very, very simple. Stand on one leg, eyes open for 60 seconds. When you can do that, you're doing pretty darn good. There are much more intense progressions to do after that, but for now, let's just stick with that.
Okay.
So that's number one.
Key number two.
Number two, standing up, bend over, and touch your toes.
Oy.
I know that there's at least 25% of the people, especially the males, listening to this right now, saying, I've never been able to touch my toes. Even as a kid, I couldn't touch my toes. Well, guess what? Neither could I. I'll never forget it. I think I was in 7th grade, maybe 8th grade. It was after my last growth spurt, because I was the same size in 8th grade as I am today. I remind Jenni all the time because I still have one pair of khaki pants that I bought for my 8th grade dance. Mm-hmm. And they're my beater pants. They're the ones that I wear when it's cold out and it's time to go out golfing.
Mm-hmm. Or your 8th grade ski vest that you wore when it finally got cold enough in Naples to wear it once a year.
Yeah, I got this really nice vest that I had in 8th grade and still got it today. But anyways, I'll never forget it because my dad, I saw him touching his toes one day and I forget, but I was like, I can't touch my toes. And I bent over and I was probably 4 inches away from touching my toes with my knees straight. And he goes, what? You can't touch your toes? He's like, you better fix that. Mm-hmm. So I did. It took me about a year of working on it every single day or, frequently. And ultimately a year later, I could touch my toes.
Do you know why it's more difficult for men to be able to touch their toes than women?
No idea at all.
Because of the rate at which the hamstrings grow in young adolescent boys, because girls grow taller earlier, right? So they grow taller earlier as far as their bone structure goes. It gives time for the muscles and bones to grow at a similar rate. But boys, they grow later. And so by the time that they actually get longer, their muscles are tighter. And then they just don't practice it as far as getting that flexibility. Okay. So that's why it's more common for males to have less hamstring and hip flexibility than females because of that age at which the boys grow. And then at that point, they don't care, right, about being flexible. So they don't practice it. Whereas if you continuously stretch as you grow, you won't have that non-flexibility problem. But anyway, all right, keep going. So being able to stand up, bend over, and touch your toes.
That's interesting. I've never heard that theory before in my life.
Is it a theory?
I don't know that it's a law, but it does make sense. Mm-hmm. I would buy it. I think it holds water. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so getting back on track here, the second key to success is being able to bend over and touch your toes. Now, the reason why I think that this is relevant to not mortality, but quality of life in your later years is because it's just a general flexibility thing. In general, the more flexibility you have, the more ability you have to do certain things. It's just that simple. Think very high level with this statement here, very superficial or 30,000 foot level. In general, people who are more flexible are more mobile, meaning that the more flexibility you have, the more you can move. Mm-hmm. The less flexibility you have, the less you can move. Just keep it very superficial. I know that there's different cases. So that's the second key to success. And how we got off on that tangent to begin with, I know at least 25% of the males listening to this are saying that I could never touch my toes even as a kid. Well, work towards it. Put some effort into it. I can't tell you how many men I've worked with over the years. When we first start, they are literally only able to get barely past their kneecaps. In standing position, keeping your knees straight, bending forward, trying to touch your toes, can barely get past their kneecaps. And the people that take it very seriously within 6 months are 6 inches from their feet.
Right.
Within 12 months, they're touching their toes.
Right.
I've seen it regularly, time and time again. If you're very serious about this and diligent about this, you can do it. There's strategies. You don't have to work harder. You work smarter. There are very good strategies to increase that flexibility. But it's something that you should work towards, because not being able to touch your toes at age 40, 50, 60, okay, who cares? But that is directly equating to a decreased mobility, right? So now you're going into your 70s and 80s with decreased mobility. And what happens when we get older? We usually lose even more mobility.
Right.
So that's why it's important. And then the third.
Oh, I can't wait for this one.
Everybody loves this. Probably going to vomit a little bit when I say this because they've heard me say it so much. The third key to success, to being able to add more quality life to your years, is being able to do a solid squat.
Ooh. 30 squats a day keeps Dr. Berman away.
That's it. 30 squats a day keeps Jake Berman away. I love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. And we've talked about this so many times. You don't have to do just regular squats. If you just slow down when you're sitting into your chair and then stand up from that chair slow and not using momentum, I'll count that as a squat. You do that at least 30 times a day between your chairs, getting in and out of the car, in and out of a golf cart, up and down from a commode. If you just slow down and use those muscles, you're going to keep them, right?
One of our clients that we both see and just love so dearly, whenever he heard your 10,000 squat podcast, so he now every time he goes to sit in a chair, whether it's to sit down to eat breakfast or sit down to read the newspaper, whatever, he'll do 5 sit to stands in the chair before he actually sits. And he tells me every day how many he got at the end of the day. He's like, 40 squats today. It's so exciting, but it has really changed his quality just in the past 3 months.
Thank you. You have to tell me more about that, because it is that simple.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't take any time at all. It takes less than 10 seconds to do 5 squats.
Right. And, oftentimes your chairs are higher than you actually, squat if you were to go without a chair. So really it's, not about the depth. It's just about having the activation to go from sit to stand without your hands.
Exactly. So when we first started this podcast, or today's episode, I was talking about who cares if you live to be 110 if you were recliner bound at the age of 90. Well, I said that kind of tongue in cheek, but it's also very relevant to the way I lost my grandmother. So I told you I lost my grandfather. He got a little demented, started getting more demented, fell, broke his hip, never came home from the hospital. But the way I lost my grandmother was she ultimately couldn't get out of the chair anymore. Mm-hmm. After losing my grandfather, of course, she was depressed and stopped doing things. She wasn't as active. She used to be very into gardening and doing things. And then after my grandfather passed, she stopped doing those things and started getting glued to the soap operas and sitting in a recliner. And she started gaining weight and losing strength. And that just snowballed in the wrong direction. And ultimately, she could not physically get out of the chair anymore. So that's where she stayed. She passed in the chair. So being able to do squats, you do squats every single day, and do 30 squats a day to keep Jake Berman away. Take the 10,000 squat challenge. Go back to that episode at the beginning of the year. I think it was. We released that one. And there will never be a day that you won't be able to get your ass out of a chair.
Right.
To the day you die.
If you're doing all three keys.
If you're doing all three things, right? So those are my 3 keys to success, but I've got a 4th one.
Uh-oh. We got an extra credit?
We've got an extra credit, and this one's a little more intense. And it's over the years after I've just seen more and more people, more and more cases. I think that this 4th one is very relevant. So I saved this one, save the best for last. Get down on the ground and get back up without using your hands.
Yeah, I have to actually be conscious about that when I get up every day, like exercising off the floor. I have to be conscious about not using my hands. And the other thing I have to be really conscious about is alternating sides that I get up on.
That was going to be my next thing.
Because I will always go to one side.
Yep. It's always your left side. That's your go-to side.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right.
All day yesterday, I'm watching you get up with your left side. I'm like, what the hell? What's wrong with the right side? But it's hard.
I'm not perfect.
Yeah, it is very hard. So being able to get down on the ground without using your hands and then get back up off of the ground to standing without using your hands. And then take note of which is your dominant leg. And then the next time you do it with the other leg. If you do this every single day, just once, doesn't take any time at all, just do it once, then there will never be a day that you cannot get up off of the ground. That is one of the biggest fears of the vast majority of my clients over the age of 80 is I don't want to fall because I won't be able to get back up. Screw that. Just practice it. Practice it every single day and get better at it. Or never lose the ability to do it in the first place. If you're in your 30s, you should be doing it every single day without using your hand. Quit pushing off of your knee with your hands, damn it. Use your legs.
Yeah. Use your muscles.
I'm looking right at you.
I know. I'm practicing. This is like, for real. I have hip issues. I had hip surgery at 20 years old. I think I was 20 years old when I had hip surgery. And it's true. It's a real problem. My hips are weak. And so I have to really work on it, not only on the strength of my hips, but the flexibility of my hips is horrible. And that is one thing I will admit I'm bad about stretching. And I'm going to be better.
Yeah. So you went from being a level 9 gymnast, being the most flexible and strong person pretty much on the planet, right? Level 9 gymnasts are pretty flexible and pretty strong
on the planet.
And then having a hip surgery and then going through the cookie cutter BS physical therapy afterwards. And then here comes Jake 10 years or 5 years later and he's going, what the hell is going on here? You got the weak ass syndrome.
Or 2 years later, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Whatever. 1 year later. I don't know.
But anyways, let's come back full circle. Let's wrap this thing up. So Jake Berman's 3 keys to success with an extra credit 4th. Number 1, being able to stand on one leg for 60 seconds without using your hands. That's a goal. You may not be able to do it today, but work towards it. There's no reason why there shouldn't be a single person listening to this today that shouldn't be able to stand on one leg for 60 seconds within a year at the absolute most. Really 3 to 6 months if you practice it every single day. Number 2, being able to bend over and touch your toes with your knees straight. I don't care if you can only get to your kneecaps today, same thing. Within a year, there is no reason at all why you shouldn't be able to touch your toes if you do the right thing every single day consistently. Number 3, being able to do a squat. And again, I know people hate squats, so let's just exchange the word squat with sit to stand using muscles, not momentum. So just sit down slowly into your chair. Don't plop down there like a blob. And then stand up slowly. Don't use momentum. Don't use your hands to push off of your knees. Stand up using the legs or the muscles in your legs. So those are the 3 biggies. And then the 4th was the extra credit one. Get down on the ground and get back up off the ground without using your hands. Again, if you can't do it today, work towards it. Use your hands now so that you don't have to use your hands in 6 months. Work towards it. Come on, guys.
Progress. Progress, not perfection.
Yeah, progress, not perfection. So pass this along to somebody that you know needs it. call out your friends and family members. Next time you're watching somebody get out of a chair, watch them. I guarantee you they use their hands to push up off their knees to stand up, and yell at them and say, "What the hell are you doing? Are your arms stronger than your legs?"
Our poor family can't get away with nothing. Can't drink your wine in peace. Can't get out of a chair in peace. Just kidding.
My stepdad's funny. Every time we're around each other and he gets up out of a chair the right way, he goes, "Did you see that one? Did you see that one?" Okay, so that was a good one. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. And until next time.
Ciao for now. Thank you for subscribing on your social media and podcast platforms to the Berman Method. Dr. Jake Berman with Berman Physical Therapy and Jenni Berman, Physician Assistant with Berman Health and Wellness. You can find more information on our website, www.bermanpt.com for physical therapy, bermanpt.com/wellness for the health and wellness. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and on your podcast platform. So be sure to follow us, like us, subscribe to us. And if you would like any further information, definitely visit our website and reach out to us. You may also find our free reports on the websites as well, where you can download this free information for yourself. Have a great day.